What's going on, everyone? I'm Steve from Burke Family 54 Comics, and we have another CGC scam thing to talk about here. We're going to get right into it. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, and tell your friends. This is a case that was filed just yesterday, January 31st, 2024. This is not related to the recent slab gate that was reported by 9.9 Newsstand and West Coast Avenger. This is different from that. At first, I thought it was connected, but it is not. So let's get right into this. Okay, let's see here. So essentially what's going on here is that CGC is they filed, there's actually 8 counts to talk about, and we'll get into it here. Basically, they're alleging that 2 CGC employees, Brandon Terezas and his wife, Ayana Terezas, were basically manipulating CGC books, stealing CGC books, and all of that. Brandon started at CGC in 2002, and he began a fraudulent scheme with his wife to strip, this is interesting wording, to strip CGC of this goodwill, which is interesting. They alleged to, again, stealing customers' comic books from the CGC facilities, generating duplicates of legitimate, authenticated CGC grade labels belonging to highly valuable comic books, encapsulating less valuable books of lower grades, and then duplicating them at the higher level here and offering such mislabeled goods to the public at large. This is quite the allegation, but they talk about how and why they came to this decision to basically sue these people. So let's get into that here. I'm trying to find... Basically, like the next couple of pages talks about who CGC is. CGC is dating back to the 60s, blah, blah, blah. Talk about some valuable books. What Certified Collectibles Group is. They're the leading provider of expert services relating to valuing and certifying collectible goods. They've been doing it since the year 2000. They have different labels, actually 12 different colored labels to authenticate and certify books. They have some examples here. We all know what a blue label is. That is a universal graded book. Basically means it's just a regular book. It's not signed. There's no restoration. Nothing's missing. It's just a regular book. The yellow label obviously is a signed comic book. They talk about basically the different books and the grade labels and all of that. Blah, blah, blah. Talk about trading cards, video games, all the different things that they do as well, in addition to comic books. So we are almost getting to the part where they, here's some more examples here, where they talk about what exactly happened. Okay, here we go. Defendant Brandon Terezas began working at CGC around June 13th, 2022, and provided services as a comic book grader. Prior to that, he had been a longtime collector of comic books. He was personally exposed to high-value comic books submitted to CGC's customers. Obviously, if you are a grader, you are you're a person that is exposed to those high-valued books. Now, his wife, Ayana Terezas, started in around the same time in June. Her duties were different, though. She was included in the receiving of items from eBay, verifying the content of such items, and then passing them to the grading and authentication. Now, when you work at CGC, there are some rules that you have to abide by, and they start listing them here. Let me see if I can read this exactly the way that it says here. Basically, you're saying that you're not going to be fraudulent in anything. You're not going to violate any of their terms of policies. And when you are an employee, you do get to submit a maximum of 20 comics per year through the employee submissions at no charge. Basically, they were saying that these people, this is again this is different from Slabgate with all those ASM 300s. This is only talking about, I believe, 23 different books, and we'll talk about them here. They're basically saying that Brandon and Ayana used their employee submissions to get them at free, to get their submission costs for free. Now, when you do that, they basically say that the employee is not involved at all in the encapsulation, the grading, or anything like that to abide by the employee's confidentiality and basically to make sure that CGC is doing this correctly by making sure that people that are involved in grading the books are not actually the owners of those books. And around May 2023, CGC became fully aware of what was going on. In September 2023, CGC started an investigation talking about what was going on. Initially, Brandon was not forthcoming about the scale and complexity of the fraudulent scheme. He resisted truthful answers to the investigator, often changing his story about the number and location of the comic books that he stole from CGC. Though ultimately, over the span of several days in October, he admitted to it piece by piece to his illegal conduct. Specifically, to date, Mr. Terezas has admitted to stealing 23 customer-submitted comic books that were submitted to CGC. As part of the scheme, Mr. Terezas would take these customer-submitted comic books, he would take them from the shelf at CGC, place them on his own desk, and discard the book's wrapping and barcodes. He would then submit them under his own name, basically, for those free books. And those books were basically stolen. Like you said, they said here that he took them, put them on his desk, and said that they were his. In total, Mr. Terezas received at least basically $27,000 in revenue through these fraudulent schemes. 7 of the 23 comic books, they believe that Brandon was unsatisfied with the grade that they received, and they swapped in duplicates of CGC branded labels with higher grades, therefore misrepresenting the lower grade collectible products, basically infringing on their trademark. And we'll talk about trademark more later when we start talking about the counts of this case in terms of what they are being charged with. Specifically, Mr. Terezas admitted to consigning 5 comic books encapsulated with CGC to Comic Link under his wife's name, Ayana, 4 of which were stolen and swapped. Those books assigned were ASM 129, Spider-Man 16, Hulk 181, Batman 251, and Silver Surfer number 1. Here are some of those. Here's some examples of some books here. In particular, in October 2023, in an email to an outside investigator engaged with CGC, Mr. Terezas provided images of 4 of these books he had stolen and swapped that remained in his possession. So these are some of the books that he had swapped out, that he stole, that he still had in his possession. So we have Incredible Hulk number 1. We have a Green Lantern 87. And then we have a Edge of Spider-Verse number 2. First appearance of Hulk, first appearance of John Stewart, first appearance of Spider-Gwen here, if you guys do not know what those books are. Even aside from his practice, Mr. Terezas violated the CGC rules. As part of the rules at CGC, basically you cannot sell more than a certain amount of books to the public. And they were provided a screenshot by a fellow employee of some books that they were selling. As you can see down here, the eBay name was Terezas the Collector. This book was listed at $13,750, which is a ton of money considering that book was probably stolen. Okay, let's see here. Ayana again, who is the wife, who also worked at CGC, worked in the eBay department, which again authenticates not just comics but also trading cards. She also represented the company at trade shows and conventions, which is crazy to think about how many people she has talked to, that people are like, man, I talked to her, and now that person's probably going to jail. Let's see here. She assisted her husband in advertising, marketing, and offering things for sale. They have the name Omni Collector as one name, Teresa's Collector as another name, which we listed before. They believe that she was complicit with Brandon in infringing on the actions against CGC. Let's see here. Here are some other examples of some books. So it looks like she did this sketch here on this book, color sketch by Ayana, Omni Collector. Again, that was a name they talked about. And here's another one that she did as well. Again, Mr. Teresa consigned 5 comic books to Comic Link, 4 of which were stolen and swapped. In addition, on numbers of occasions, Mr. Teresa used the employee submissions to third parties to grade various collectibles owned by himself. Again, it looks like they worked together on this. I know this is kind of getting dragged out here. I promise I'm going to get to the part where they are talking about the counts here. Actually, I think it's on the next page. Okay, so the first count is they're talking about infringing on CGC's trademark. If you don't know what trademark is, according to Google, trademark is a symbol, word, or words legally registered or established by use as representing a company or product. Basically, CGC believes that both parties were infringing on CGC's trademark by swapping out these books. Not just that, obviously stealing stuff as well. They talk about it here in count number 2 as well. They're talking about trademark counterfeiting, changing out the labels. There are 8 counts. We've gone through 2. Both of them so far have been against both parties, though there are some against just Brandon and some against just Ayana. Let's see here. Count number 3 is talking about against both parties. Basically, they're talking about misleading descriptions and false representations of items. Count number 4 is against Ayana only. They are saying that she contributed to trademark infringement with this count. Again, there are 8 counts. We are through half of them. Count number 5 is for both parties. And again, it's about trademark infringement, but also about unfair competition, which is something that they mentioned quite a bit in here. And this is a document that I had sent to me. This is the whole document, all 34 pages. This was sent to me by my good friend, Dave, Mark Spector Comics. Make sure you guys are following him as well. Count number 6 is against Brandon only. This is about conversion, stealing customers' comics. He stole 23 comics that were submitted to CGC. CGC ultimately, I assume, had to pay the customers the cost of the book. Like whenever you submit books to CGC, they do ask for you to put the value that you have on the books. And then they'll take a look at it and decide, how much they should pay out for lost or stolen books. Obviously, I assume all 23 comics that were stolen here were probably from several different people. Hopefully, all those people were paid for their loss of comics. But, sometimes if some of those books are with these people their entire lives, you cannot replace a comic book they've had since they were a kid. Like let's say they got it from their dad or their mom or brother or whatever. Like you cannot replace that for sure. Okay. Count number 7 is conspiracy to contribute trademark infringements. It's against both parties. They do say in here, I don't know which page it's on. They're talking about how it has irreparable damages, injuries to the plaintiffs, which again are CGC. And count number 8 is unjust enrichment. where they're talking about how they stole the books and they got no less than basically $27,000 in profit by basically abusing their power by working at CGC, by stealing them, swapping books, all of that. So there are 8 counts, and CGC is requesting a jury by trial. They want a trial because they allege trademark infringement. Where is it? Where's the whole thing? There's a list here. Here it is. They allege trademark infringement, trademark counterfeiting, false designation of origin, unfair competition, conspiracy, fraud, and unjust enrichment, which I talked about a lot of those earlier. Page 32. What do they say here on page 32? Let's see here. They are asking the court to issue an order requiring accounting of all profits. Let's see here. It's got to be on here somewhere. I cannot find it right now, though. And the last page, which is very interesting. Very interesting. Okay. They're asking the court to require the defendant to pay CGC up to $2 million for each trademark that the defendant has counterfeited and infringed upon. $2 million for each book. So if you can do the math, if we're doing it for all of those there, 23 books, $2 million each, they're asking the court to get the defendants, Brandon and Ayana, to pay $46 million in damages. That is insane. I assume this is going to go to trial. They're going to get their own lawyer. It's going to be interesting to watch for sure. I don't anticipate them having to pay $46 million in restitution. I don't see that happening. We'll see what happens. I'm sure they have their own, accounting of stuff, and CGC is asking for that as well. Obviously, they have been looking at this stuff since September. So they've been looking at it for like 6-7 months now. So they've had plenty of time for the investigators to come up with stuff. And they finally filed this court document yesterday, January 31st, 2024. So that is the latest CGC scandal. I'm Steve from Burke Family 54 Comics. Let me know in the comment section what you guys think about this case. What do you guys think about it feels like another CGC issue here. And again, this involves basically some insider trading, some insider stealing. This is exactly what everyone's afraid of when they submit books to CGC. And it's finally like at some point it's going to happen, right? Like it happens to like basically every company. You can't hire all good people. You hope that you do, but it sounds like CGC did not hire the best people in this situation. Prayers to Brandon and Ayana for sure. Thanks everyone for watching. Again, I'm Steve from Burke Family 54 Comics. And as always, go Cats.
Cowabunga. It's morphin' time.